Hi, I'm Scooter Pie, and I'd like to introduce you to this exciting episode of Good Night with Scooter Pie. So before we begin with the interview, I just wanted to introduce my guest who I got to interview recently. They are Dr. Dulcinea Pitagora, who is a psychotherapist and sex therapist in New York City, who is currently seeing patients there. They are an expert in alternative sexuality, specializing in working with adults in the kink, poly, trans, gender nonconforming, non-binary, LGBTQ, and sex work communities. We got to talk about a few different things. We got to talk about experiencing your gender expression while alone in quarantine. We got to talk about experiencing poly relationships during quarantine, and also just the general experience of being in therapy at this time. So please enjoy my interview with Kink Doctor, Dr. Dulcinea Pitagora. Hi.
Hi.
Here today. So you are calling in from New York City. How are things going over there today?
It's a lovely day. I'm sitting here on my fire escape. It's Saturday today. There's a noisy car driving by. I don't know if you caught that.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. This might be the furthest I've been outside since Monday, I think.
You are as listed on your Instagram profile, a psychotherapist, sex therapist, BDSM expert. So you have your own private practice in New York City?
Right. So I have an office that I'm not using right now, but it's in Chinatown, actually. And yeah, it's a private practice. I also supervise other therapists. And I'm a psychotherapist and sex therapist, so I specialize in working with the small communities that I'm a part of, like the LGBTQ community, the trans and gender nonconforming community, the kink community, the poly non-monogamous community, sex worker community, and intersections thereof. All those fine people.
Have you been able to continue to conduct sessions from home during quarantine?
Yeah, I have. It doesn't look quite like this because I sit on the other side of this window, but yeah, I've been doing it like this on Zoom. I have a HIPAA compliant Zoom. They're tightening up a lot of things I hear, and also on Doxy. But it's good. Like it's going well, but not, it's hard. It's harder to do. I think it's so much nicer, as we know, to be in person with people if we can, but we can't right now. So a lot of people are still going, and it is what it is. We're all just kind of doing the best we can. So.
Yeah. So you brought up a couple of, I'm just going to pull them up, of really cool points of discussion for us today. Pardon me looking at my phone, but I just want to bring that up.
I was just thinking I was on your show. I was on Good Night with Scooter Pie. Like, when was that? When we had the live studio audience?
Yeah, like 7 years ago. And you were such a great guest that it was really exciting to me to reconnect. Because at the time, like, you had some audience questions that you answered. So you mentioned what happens with identity during a period of isolation. And you wrote, for example, how the concept of dance like no one's watching might lead to internal expansion. That sounds really beautiful. So could you talk about that a little bit?
I don't know how much I can talk about it. It's been something I've been thinking about, in isolation, right? And one thing that I've been doing is I've been painting my nails more often, just looking around to see if anyone's watching. They're in really bad shape right now, so I'm going to do them again. But I've been painting them and wearing ties. And this is my casual Saturday tie. That
Amazing.
I'm going to take it off as soon as we're done. And so I've been wondering, especially a lot of the people I work with are maybe are closeted in one way or another, or they are read in one way or another from society in general that doesn't really match how they feel about themselves in different ways, or there are a lot of sort of things that general public can't see about us and assumptions that are made. So in this period of like, we're in front of many, a lot fewer people, drastically, right? And so maybe some of us have partners or roommates that we're spending way more time with, but then that's just like the only person, or maybe we're spending way more time alone. And I just wonder what that does to, how we feel about our identity when, like, if nobody's watching us perform identity, then what's possible? Does it mean that there are more possibilities? For some people, maybe there are fewer possibilities to feel that, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't have any answers. It's something I'm curious about. Like, what do people do when with like identity when nobody's watching?
Another thing that you mentioned, which I think is interesting, is I guess like navigating poly relationships during quarantine.
Something that Dan Savage and also Tristan Taormino were talking about, that poly relationships don't exist anymore, because of quarantine, or because of the pandemic. And I super respect Tristan Taormino. I haven't ever spoken with Dan Savage, and there's some of the information he puts out there that I think is amazing, and then other information that I am critical of, which I think is fine. I'm sure that hopefully people are the same way with me, but I had a reaction to that, actually, because I have different partners and I'm not with most of them right now. And but we're still in a relationship, so I had a reaction to that, and it made me think about, like, what do they mean by non-monogamy not happening right now? What does that say about priorities, right? I think a lot of people are thinking about sex, like, so the thing that's not happening right now with multiple partners probably is it's sex, right? That's the thing that if we're staying in, we're not visiting other people, then we can't have sex with them, which some days feels more tragic than others, but
for sure.
I don't know based on what, but we still have relationships, and so we can still have romantic relationships, or still do like dating, from afar, courting each other, or just like keeping long distance. It's being in a long distance relationship. So I think that that's what's happening right now for people. But having said that, then I do have, like, I work with a lot of couples in multiple partner relationships, and right now, in therapy, and so right now things are so different than they normally are that there's not too much to talk about with that. Like, there's not maybe the things that cause maybe the most conflict in poly relationships maybe aren't happening as much right now, because a lot of it is around, like, how much time are you spending with this person versus that person, and what kinds of sex are you having, and things like that. So those conversations aren't happening right now. So I think that's what they were talking about. But I just, it made me think about, well, like, what about all the other aspects of relationships that we all do all the time? We still can do a lot of those. It reminded me of the old what is it, misconception or like stereotype, or there's some kind of about people that identify as bisexual, but maybe they're in a committed or a monogamous mixed gender relationship, right? Does that mean that if they're monogamous and they're in a straight passing relationship, they can no longer be bisexual, right? Or pansexual or queer or whatever. Now they're straight all of a sudden because of what their relationship looks like. So that's that's not the case, because you still can have attraction and identify however you want to identify, regardless of your relationship structure, right? Same thing with non-monogamy.
Well, there are so many sex workers who are not affected by quarantine because they are able to work remotely, like doing cam work or doing like videos and doing stuff like that. But for so many of us that make our living doing like in-person kind of session work, who now find ourselves like out of a job, maybe for who knows how long, and are maybe like panicked right now, or losing this sense of like identity and things like that. Do you have like just a piece of advice or a suggestion for people who are going through that experience?
I mean, I think it's really hard. We're going through collectively as a planet, which is bizarre, this experience together. And, we haven't ever done this before, so we don't know how it's going to come out on the other end. But this is a temporary situation. That all of the science points to that, at some point, there have been pandemics before. We've seen what's happened. Like right now, we're in a different place than we ever have been before in terms of like technology and options for, potential for treatment and things like that. I mean, the system, obviously the insurance system and healthcare system and all of that is fucked. So I don't know if I can say fucked on your show. Okay. Fucked. But having said that, we do have much more advanced technology and all of that. So I have confidence that this will be a temporary situation, and that we need to kind of figure out how do we get through today, right? The next, how do we get what we need? Looking on I think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which means like you take care of the things that are most important for survival first. And this is what a lot of people are dealing with right now, right? This pandemic disproportionately affects the people that are hard, that are, have to worry the most about like safety and paying rent and eating food and like the things on the basic level of the hierarchy of needs. So just focusing on how to get through that. If we can do that every day, figure out how to take care of ourselves. We'll get more information later and then we'll know what to do with that. I mean, the thing about sex work is it's been around since, the labor and the emotional and physical labor of sex work, regardless of like if it's applied to a capitalistic structure or not, has been around probably since humans have been around and fucking. Like I feel like I don't know what other ages, like the Ice Age or whatever, like what the currency looked like, or but I kind of guarantee that there was like trade of this very valuable service or like interaction or human connection or whatever forever. And so this has been my point being like it's. There was sex work before and after, other pandemics. There was sex work before and after different economic fluctuations. It's going to be around. And so if we can get through now, if people would like to continue working as, doing sex work, we'll have to see how it pans out, right? Like we'll have to see like what people are going to be doing. Technology continues to change. Like, we just have to kind of see. It's going to be there. It maybe won't be there in the same way, that we recognize it from before. Maybe it will, it's just, we don't really know, but it's not going anywhere is my point. In some form. There will be like a way for people who want to do sex work. I'm sure that there will be a way for people to do it. The problem is like, what do we do right now? Right. I guess just staying as healthy and supported as possible and just figuring out how to do that. It's an unprecedented situation. So, and I think that at the community level, there's been a lot of support, right? It's been at the macro upper level of like government, whatever. It feels kind of wonky and like they're trying maybe, but like they're actually not trying very hard for sex workers at all, right? And so, but there's been way more support at the community level of people trying to help each other out to what extent they can. That's what I'm saying.
Well, thank you so much for coming on to this show. What's your website so we can find you online?
My website is dulcineapitagora.com. So it's kind of a lot of letters, but I don't know if this is going to be on Instagram, but on my Instagram, I have a link tree link. So I have all my websites. If one were to go to my Instagram at Kink Doctor and click on the link in bio, as the kids say, links in bio.
And your Instagram is at Kink Doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Any last words for your adoring audience before we say goodbye?
Stay safe. Let's keep taking care of ourselves and each other, and stay safe and connected. That's it. I don't know.
And it doesn't hurt
feel like enough, but
yeah. Sorry, I spoke over you. I was just going to add, and it doesn't hurt to keep your nails painted.
Right, yeah, it doesn't hurt. Right. Yeah.
thank you for joining me for this exciting episode of Good Night with Scooter Pie. I hope you have a good night and see you next time.